Hey y'all, these are Cornish Rock Cross meat chickens being raised for poultry production, and they are a specialized type of breed that puts on meat quickly. They convert feed to meat rapidly, and they are excellent for meat production. So wanted to share with y'all from a poultry producer's perspective 3 things if you're a meat bird that'll get you taken out of the flock. So the first one is mortality. Very frequently when you raise meat chickens, there can be a high incident of flock loss, and many times it's just flock loss from natural causes like heart failure or leg failure. And heart failure is generally very quick. From the time you notice symptoms to the time the bird dies, there may be 2 or 3 days. Once you get kind of an eye for what the symptoms are. Until that point, it seems like sudden onset, like it just came out of the blue and was totally random. But once you kind of get an eye for the normal behavior, normal presence, normal appearance of a Cornish Rock Cross meat chicken, you can gauge when one is going into heart failure, and it maybe 2-3 days from the time you really notice the symptoms to the time that the bird passes away. So that's one thing. With the leg failure though, boy, that's a bad deal, because that's a slow and miserable death if that's what causes the bird to die. Because in leg failure, generally the leg failure is the primary problem, but the cause of death will end up being starvation or dehydration, because a bird that has a leg injury isn't able to utilize mobility. It can't get up, it can't get around its area, its space, it can't get to food like healthy, thriving birds can and sound birds can, and it can't get itself to water like healthy, thriving, sound birds can. So in those cases, in our operation, if we see birds that have leg injury, we will actually try to move those birds out of the flock before they really have a problem with getting to food and getting to water. Because if we can get them in an area with fewer birds in it and an area that is just calmer, then we actually can put the food and the water so close to them or at a different height or level so that it's just more accessible to them. And frequently that will help them. It might help them be able to get through production and go to processing when the flock goes to processing. But even if it turns out we can't take them to processing, in the meantime, it will give them a better quality of life to kind of specialize for their needs and have that intervention for them. So leg injury could end in death if we ignore it in our meat birds, but leg injury at our barn is definitely going to get you moved out of the flock if you're a meat bird and into an area where you can have specialized care for that. And so then the third thing that will get you moved out of the flock in our meat bird barn is if you're a runt. And so many times when we're raising meat birds, we'll hit different points where we discover some birds that just aren't similar size to the rest of the flock. So they aren't keeping up with the uniform of growth throughout the flock as a whole. And that can also cause a problem for our birds when it comes to staying hydrated and staying well nourished, because again, it becomes a little bit of not so much a mobility issue, but a size and strength issue. One thing that happens with our feeders and waters in our meat bird barn is we try to keep those trays lifted up to the height of the bird's back. So if most of the flock is getting tall And some members of the flock aren't getting taller. As those feeders and water trays get taller, those shorter birds can't reach it anymore. So being a runt in our meat bird barn will get you separated out from the flock so that we can put you in an area where we can make the feeders and waters more accessible to you. So, and here's kind of an example that's actually a good example. You know, we see a little size difference here in these two birds. In my opinion, the one on the left looks slightly smaller than the one on the right, but you know, we can evaluate for that. It can still reach the feeder tray, and I've seen it move. It can still get around and move. So we're going to be able to leave that bird right here. But I can show you some examples of some birds that had to be removed from the flock for those very things, for leg injury and for size or stature. So we're going to go right over here real quick and wrap up this video by showing you some birds that had to be separated from their flock, and we'll try to tell you kind of what the outlook is for these birds. So total of 126 started this flock. We lost 3 to death, so those carcasses, when we found them, had to be removed from the barn, had to be handled humanely and respectfully and dealt with appropriately. So we did that. So we lost 1 at like day 8 and 1 at like day 17, and maybe the next one at day 19 or 20. Okay, and about day 20, we spotted 2 birds that had injury, and around the same time, day 20 to day 22, we also spotted 2 birds that were just small. So we've moved them over here to this area. So actually all 4 of them are right here, more or less together. There's the others, okay? So this bird was moved out because of injury. So you can see even here, so the bird on the left is not as big as the other birds that we were looking at previously, but it's still a lot bigger than the 2 birds on the right. So the 2 birds on the right were runts. This bird was moved for injury, and that bird was moved out for injury. And so here we're able to, we have a feeder on risers. If they're able to stand up and they feel like standing up and they're tall enough to reach that, they can eat off of a higher tray. Or if they aren't moving well, can't bear weight on the legs because of injury, they've got a tray on the floor. Same with the water one there, and one that's on a little riser. And this one is actually, let's see, just trying to see which one. Okay, that one has a leg injury in its right leg in the joint. These are small ones, okay? And this one is the worst injured. And a lot of times throughout the day, here's one of the things that we'll do for this one. We'll actually pick up wherever the water is and bring the water to this bird and see if it wants a drink, you know, in case it got tired throughout the day and couldn't get to the water. But we'll do our best to take, and see there, it's close to the food. So you actually can see the injury right there. It's this wing, the right wing on this bird is injured. And we can't find any other sign of injury on this bird, but the prognosis is not good for this bird because you can see the legs really aren't developing. I mean, even just in the leg itself is very fine structured and very petite and small. Very difficult for this bird to bear the weight of its body, and that's only going to compound. The more this bird sits and eats in one place, that's only going to compound, because that bird's body is going to continue to grow, but the legs aren't building up strength to hold it. And I don't know if that, because of that being a wing injury, it seems like it couldn't balance well when it tried to walk when it was first hurt, and so when it tries to stand, it just doesn't seem to have the strength in its legs. We have seen it move like from here to where that metal can is sitting. This one wasn't able to stand at all when we first moved it over here, but now it can stand. The 2 runts don't have any mobility issues at all. They just are small. And over in that other pen, they're too small to compete for the resources without getting hurt by the other birds. This one was too weak and too injured, and this one was injured and was in too much discomfort. So we are seeing this one improve, but like I said, I don't know that it's gonna be able to use its legs well, and that's going to be an issue. This one, we see a lot of improvement, I still don't know that we'll be able to get this bird to processing because there's a lot of swelling in the joint, and I don't know if it'll get good development of meat in that drumstick and thigh. So if we won't take it to processing, we'll butcher it at home, process it as a whole chicken for our household. This one, we'll just have to see, you know, if we can keep it hydrated and nourished and it grows. I don't think it'll go to processing either, but we can try to process it as a whole bird for our household. But we're just gonna have to see if we can keep it growing. I don't know. And the runts, their prognosis is great. They may not go to processing when their flock goes, but we have another flock that will start immediately after this flock, so we could just give them a double length of grow and finish time, and they could probably go to the processor with the next bunch. Sometimes there's just runts. That's just the way it turns out. So all those 4 that you saw there are the very same age as these birds, all 22 days old, and should all go to the processor April 16th. But we are saying that the count is the 119 that are over here, because we don't think any of those 4 will go to the processor with this group. And the 2 runts may go, but we'll probably have to go with the next group. So thanks for joining us at Twin Oaks Farm Poultry. Wanted to show you some of the reasons some birds would get taken out of a group of poultry here in our operation, and how we would kind of move forward with that. So it varies in every circumstance, but those are some real life examples from this current flock of ours. So thanks y'all for joining us. Join us again, and we really appreciate you. Please subscribe to Twin Oaks Farm Poultry. Make sure you're eating real good food. Do at least one thing every day that makes you happy, and we hope that you will source as much food locally as you possibly can. Support your local farmers. Thanks so much, y'all. God bless you.